I want to talk about genres and how to tell books and what genre they are for fiction. Not all fiction is genre fiction. Some is just categorized as either literary fiction or regular old, plain old fiction. But then there's the genres such as mystery, sci fi, fantasy, horror, etc. And some libraries, like this one, Rochester Hills Public Library in Michigan, where I used to work, they actually shelve their genre fiction separately for browsing purposes. So, um, it, for instance, I'm a mystery reader. Whenever I read for fun, just for downtime, and I'm just reading for pure easy fun, I will pick up a cozy mystery. And I've been that way since I was 12, so probably not likely to change now. Um, but I loved going in this library because I could go right to the mystery section and they were all there all together. And if I wanted to find a different mystery, I didn't have to look through all sorts of other kinds of books. I could just pick one right there from the mystery section. And that's one of the benefits of shelving by genre fiction. Now, one of the downsides is that some books are not easily categorized. And you can have books that are both a mystery and a romance, or a romance and a sci-fi, or a western and a thriller. It just depends on which they are more, which the librarian thinks, which category they think they fall into. If it's too general, they'll just put it in general fiction. But sometimes it's hard. Another downfall is that certain authors write different genres. For instance, Danielle Steele writes mostly romances, but she's written a mystery or two, and she also writes just general fiction. So, in this particular library, she would have books in several different sections, which can be annoying for people if they just want to read Danielle Steele and are more into just her and not perhaps which genre she's writing in. So let's just do a quick look, and I'm choosing this catalog because I like how they have it set. It's easy to see the genres, and so that's why I want to use this one. So let's look up Rhys Bowen, who is one of my favorites. She's a well-known cozy mystery writer. She has several different series. Um, so, so I did that in the keyword search. You can see I love this catalog. I'm not sure which system they're using, if it's Horizon or Triple I or what they're using. But you can sort, and I often sort by pub date because I want the newest book, because I've read all the others. I don't want the old ones. I want the newest one. For instance, Venice Sketchbook, I just finished that one. It was pretty awesome. So now I have to wait for the next book to come out. Also notice on the left that you can limit this. You can filter further by just wanting a print book, by picking one of her particular series, by picking a year, all sorts of things you can limit by over here. But I don't want to start with that one. And actually, what I did was I searched for her keyword name. I didn't search by her name. So I need to go ahead and limit it by author, because she is actually mentioned in a couple of other, like this one. She's not the author of. She's mentioned as like just a blurb or as another like author or something. So, but she is not the actual author. So I want to refine that search to Rhys Bowen as an author. Okay, and then I want to go down to this one. You can see this is The Last Mrs. Summers, a Royal Spinous Mystery. So this is obviously a mystery. You can tell just from the title, right? Some other clues are that it is published by Berkeley Prime Crime, which is a publisher for crime, mystery, thriller novels, suspense. So that's a clue right there. There are some very specific publishers that publish mostly in one genre. You can see that this is part of a series, which is also helpful to know because you often want to read all the books in a certain series. So this will lead you to the series and all the books they have by that. Let's click on it because I want to show you. So here it goes right down to genre. So this is categorized as mystery fiction first and then historical fiction second. This because this is a mystery. There is a murder, but it is set in 19th century New York, and so all of her books are set in different time periods. So that's why it has a historical fiction label, but it's first and foremost a mystery. It just happens to be in a historical and factually correct setting. Now, Rochester Hills, I told you, has the mysteries and other genres separated. So you'll see that right here, they have a adult mystery collection. And if you wanted to, you could click into this and actually go book by book throughout each book that they have in the collection, which is a way you can browse online. But you'll see that's in the mysteries. Now, I also want to show you the catalog record, which is at the bottom. And don't skip all of this when you are looking through a catalog at some point. Please look at all the cool things that they have. Some of these are add-ins. Some of these they have to pay more money to have, but they're super helpful for reader's advisory and other things like that. So let's go to the librarian's view. Sometimes it's called the staff view. It's also the catalog view. So if you hadn't had cataloging yet, this is what a catalog record looks like, and it might look like another language, but after cataloging, hopefully you'll know what it means. Basically, it's just each piece has a number. For instance, the title is a 245 field, and the 100 field is the author field. So I want to point your attention to the 655 field, which is the genre field. So once again, this is classified as mystery fiction. In fact, this is where the 655 field is where the genre of mystery is pulling from up above in the record. It's just pulling from this field. So you can see that this is a mystery. So let me go to another one. Let me show you an example. Let's just look at this one, for example. So this is a standalone novel that she wrote, and it is not classified as a mystery, although it is somewhat of a mystery, but nobody dies. At least nobody's murdered. So I think that's why it's not classified as a mystery. So you can see here the genre is romance fiction, historical fiction, and general novel. Now, this is not a typical romance, as in a typical formulaic romance. There are like Danielle Steele or somebody like that. And it is historical fiction in that it's in a setting that's historically factual. But it's also just a regular novel. So let's see, what they have done with it is, well, it's in the new book section, so I'm not sure where it's eventually going to end up, whether it's going to end up in romance. My guess is it will go into general fiction. Let's go down and look at the librarian's view, which will tell you basically the same thing. The 655 field will be romance first and then historical fiction. But in the subjects, it has divorced women, fiction, World War II fiction. So it's probably going to end up, I think, as general fiction. But you could make a case, I suppose, for romance fiction or historical fiction, although that's not what I would say a typical romance or a typical historical fiction is. So how would you find that? Let's go back here. Didn't like that. And let's sort by genre. Let's search by genre. So let's go to historical fiction. Now, they don't have a section in Rochester Hills for historical fiction. But we can search by genre. And actually, the book I was looking for is under subject. Oops. Let me do the subject of historical fiction. All right, that's what I was looking for. Let me just type it in. And I don't know if you've read on this one or not, but this is a great book. So The Lions of Fifth Avenue, which of course is set at the New York Public Library. And so this book is also a standalone book. The print doesn't give you any clue because it's just a large print edition of Random House, which is general. When you get to the genres, you've got historical fiction, mystery fiction, historical fiction again, and detective and mystery fiction. So it's got several labels, but by and large, I would call this historical fiction because it's the first listed here. And here, it's actually in the outprint. It's actually in the large print collection, which is not separated out because it's a much smaller collection. So let's come down here and look at the catalog record again. So the 655 for this is historical, mystery, and historical, and detective and mystery. So you could make a case for either in this case, of which it is. Now, what if you wanted to find a traditional sci-fi? Isaac Asimov is one of the most popular sci-fi, writers of all time. A little old school, but his stuff is pretty awesome. Let's go by author and book. I, Robot, classic. I think that was also a movie. So you'll see here, and this is an older book, so they don't actually use, they did in this one. The genre field wasn't added till later. So if you have a very old catalog, you're not going to actually have the 655 field. It's a newer field, but they do have here. And you'll see here that the subjects are robots and science fiction. Robots naturally fall into science fiction. The genre is science fiction. And it is shelved in the science fiction area. And then again, in the catalog view, it's going to be the 655 field of science fiction. So this is definitely a science fiction book. Let me look at Stephen King. You should know what that's going to be, right? This is actually not. Yeah, there it is. Except this is a new. I'm not sure if this is a new or not. This is actually a short story, and they actually categorize the short stories separate. So let me type it like this. We'll get more books. Why am I having trouble? Trying to find an older one. All right, so most of you know that Stephen King is horror. Most of his books are horror. And you can see right here that it's a genre of horror fiction, and it's shelved in the horror collection. One more interesting one. Let's go to the subject of Christian fiction. Now, there are other religious books that are written, but by and large, the most popular religious books are what you would call Christian fiction. If you hear talk about Amish fiction, that also falls in that. Amish fiction is super popular among people who want an easy read with no violence, no sex, and no bad words. So let's go here. Let me see if I can find a good one. Here's a typical one. It's actually listed as Christian fiction, historical, and romance. So often these are very gentle romances with different settings. Bethany House is a Christian publisher, so you can tell from the publisher, but definitely the genre is Christian fiction. But here, they don't separate out Christian fiction at this library, so it just goes in the regular fiction. But you can make a case that this is the genre of Christian fiction. And so that's a pretty long overview for how to use the catalog, and I hope that was helpful.